Today on the Nerdy Gritty, after his symbol was used during a political uprising, the Punisher has become a controversial figure. What should Marvel do with the Punisher?
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, they make some man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am your favorite Jigsaw Fox. I forgot my name that I go by on here for a second. I almost said my actual name.
After the Mafia came for my family, and they were throwing ice cream at each other, but my family's all wildly lactose intolerant.
Oh, no.
And so they all...
Big Dairy came after you.
Yeah, and anyway, now I'm Des.
The Des-isher. The punted Des.
Oh.
No, let's move on.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I've got a fun thing to do. Usually I will talk about the results of any GDQ, any Games Done Quick event.
Yeah.
Just an update, how much money they made, all that.
Right.
And I'm going to do that real quick, but I've got something else to throw in there with it.
Ooh, okay.
But AGDQ, Awesome Games Done Quick 2021, which is, again, online because of reasons that are very obvious, just finished. It was a week long. 148 different speed runs, 42,000 individual donations.
Nice. That's awesome.
$2.75 million.
That's amazing.
An entirely online thing, and it goes to the Prevent Cancer Foundation.
That's yeah.
So
Woo.
no.
Games for good, baby.
I'm fairly certain that AGDQ or GDQ has to be one of their consistently, maybe I would be not shocked at all if they were like their biggest donor on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
Because they do 2 events, and sometimes they do Doctors Without Borders. I'm not sure if they switch between them or what, but a lot of money. So lots of cool speed runs, lots of games being destroyed. In fact, I don't know if it was part of the speed run, but a new speed run has come out, a new category for Breath of the Wild that's called Bread Percent, and it's the fastest to be able to cook some bread. Which I do think it should be called Bready Percent, but it's a great category. I love it.
Bready, set, go.
Bready, set, go. There it is. But what we're going to do right now is see just how bad Des is at video games.
Oh, I can tell you
we all know that you're only good at video games if you can beat them as fast as possible.
As fast as
That's the
humanly
only way to be actually
Yes.
good at video games. If you can't, so we're going to see. And so what I did was I got a list of 5 of games that I know you love.
Yeah.
And we're going to see just how good you are at those games.
Oh, no.
So we're going to start with one that you're actually playing right now, Bloodborne.
Yeah.
What would you say? How long would you say it took you to beat Bloodborne?
The first time or like
Whatever.
this time that I'm currently going through
the fastest time. The fastest time it ever took you.
As I'm currently going through it, I'm not finished yet.
Obviously, it's an estimate. You're not going to have the exact number.
Yeah, I'm going to randomly guesstimate 20 to 25 hours.
Beginning to end.
Yeah, beginning
to
and
final
20 to 25 hours.
Okay.
Right now, yeah.
Well, that's terrible, and you're terrible at everything. Because the speed run for any percent Bloodborne is 25 minutes and 20 seconds.
No way! Holy crap!
Now, that's any percent. All of these are going to be any percent.
Right. And
it means you can exploit glitches.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say.
But
what?
so can you. So
Here's what I will say about me,
just because you choose not to.
is I don't just love Bloodborne, I love the story in it. So I will this is my 5th time
There's no
beating
story.
it. I will watch the cutscenes. I will listen
You'll
to the
continue
dialogue.
to yeah.
I know all of it. It's like I'm the guy who can read a book 50 times and still love it.
All right, let's keep doing
Half
going
an
on.
hour?
No, less, 25 minutes. All right, Hellblade, Send You a Sacrifice. You really loved that game.
I loved that.
It was
game
like your game of the
so
year,
much.
2018, 2017.
Yeah, it was my game of the year. Yeah. It's one of my all-time favorite games.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a fairly short story
Mhm.
compared to other big I mean, it's a big game for an indie studio, but how long do you think it took you? How long?
I have no idea. I'm gonna randomly
Estimate,
guess 20 hours.
20? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrible. The speed run on Hellblade is 1 hour and 24 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
they get through the hell and the blade very fast.
Very, very fast.
let's get into some news now that we know you're bad at video games.
Yeah, now that we know that I am bad at video games.
Now it's been confirmed.
So I want to apologize. I gave a little bit of misinformation last week.
Oh.
When I talked about there being a PS2 themed
fake news, Des.
This is not fake news.
Oh.
But it is not Sony who is releasing it.
Oh.
So this was a organization like a third
party PlayStation 5?
So they
or is it like just
PS5s? And they are reskinning it, recasting
custom.
it. Yeah,
okay,
they're custom,
all right. They're destroying the
PS5.
warranty.
Yes, and then
okay, that makes more sense to me.
And then they were reselling it at a higher price for the work.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's all just fine. That's great, etc. etc.
Yeah.
They've had to cancel all sales and refund all pre-orders.
Did Sony pull a Nintendo?
Nope.
Oh.
They were getting death threats.
From why? Why?
Is
it because they're buying and reselling PlayStation 5s and nobody likes people who do that?
That was part of it.
Okay.
Selling at a premium, which isn't much of a premium.
They're doing something to it.
And it wasn't ridiculous. They were selling for like $700. So about $200 for the work that they had to put into it.
Huh.
But also just because they could only do so many at a time, and so they would tell people, we're out of pre-orders, and people just could not accept that.
People couldn't handle their self and threatened them to death.
Yes. So
threatened them with death, not to death.
Tom'sGuide.com.
Yeah.
Every black PS5 order canceled, retailer blames it on threats to safety.
So because of this probably minority of people, nobody gets on.
Exactly.
You know how we're both really big into cowboy culture.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm all about that. I will say this, not the cowboy culture, but Western history I got kind of into as a kid.
It's the best thing in the world. But we are nowhere near the level of some Red Dead Online role players.
Are people LARPing?
Oh, not LARPing, but they are role playing on a private server there's a role playing server of Red Dead Online.
So the voice chat and everything, you just have to act.
You are
in game,
required at all times to be in character.
Okay, here's what I will say.
That's
awesome.
even. Oh, sure, it's great. Okay,
that's awesome.
That's not the story here.
Right.
That's the thing. That exists for all games, like all online games. There are role playing servers.
That's true. I guess didn't think about that.
But with this one, Red Dead Online, they took it a step further recently. In a wild story to read.
Oh, boy.
So I'm reading a Polygon article. Red Dead Online fans attempt to herd cattle nearly spiraled out of control.
What?
So this was, as far as I can tell, the very first moment, the very first opportunity, or the very first attempt to do an actual like bartering in a role-playing server like this.
Okay.
Where they are not exchanging money. It's not just one character exchanging digital dollars. It's one group, two player-controlled companies in the server trading 5 cows for 30 bags of coffee beans and 4 musical instruments.
Okay.
And the actual like event that like the part that was crazy was trying to herd the cattle from one company to the other, because because of technical limitations where cows generally act a certain way,
right?
And they, Rockstar's not going to specifically program cows, for this specific event,
right?
What they actually did was have 5 human players, their characters, they temporarily turned into cows. They turned into cows. And then their role was to actively make it as difficult as possible to herd themselves, for the other cowboys to herd them. This is a true story. I'm not making this up.
They're just hearing over their speakers, "Moo, sucker!" And
Get out the way! Get out!
Moo, sucker! Get out the way! Well, what have you been up to, man?
I've got a few movies, 3 movies, and one book to talk about. I'm gonna start with the book I read. I've talked about the first volume, but I've finished all 3 volumes of March, which is a graphic novel series by John Lewis, who was a congressman who passed away last year, I believe, or the year before. And it's a autobiographical series of graphic novels. about his involvement in the civil rights movement of the 60s. And it is rough to read because it doesn't shy away from, everything that he went through and that the movement went through about just, it is very good to read. Like I talked about, They Called Us Enemy. I think this should be one that's like, assigned to students to read.
Yeah.
It's a very like on the ground, personal, through my eyes, here's what I experienced, rather than textbooks are good also as like kind of a 50,000 foot, like, let's look at everything, but also just to see somebody's experience. And also here are pictures. Here are drawings of when these white people beat me with bats. And when literally we were just standing there and they said, no, that's illegal. You're going to jail now.
I watched The Lost City of Z.
Or of Zed. With Charlie Hunnam, right?
And with Edward Cullen. What's his name? Dang it. I'm already forgetting his name.
What's it? Yeah, okay. Robert Pattinson. I also watched our Pat's movie this week.
Also, Tom Holland was in this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, Charlie Hunnam was it? Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, I don't know who Charlie Hunnam is.
Doesn't matter.
Who's either
He's
way.
the guy in Pacific Rim.
No, maybe not.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. There's another Z movie.
Alfred Molina's in it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But surprise, not a zombie movie. Like when
anything there's a Z in, it's always like, oh, zombies.
When I just heard the title, I was
that's
like,
clearly
it's some zombie.
It's El Dorado,
movie,
but with zombies.
Exactly
that's
what I thought it was going
right
to be.
There, yeah.
Yep. And my wife, we were trying to figure out what to watch one night, and we came by it. But apparently, it's a like a historically accurate, shooting for a historically accurate look at explorations in the early 1900s.
Okay.
The way that, we used to glorify these explorers, and he's heading into the jungle.
He's heading into the jungle and going to kill the native people there for glory.
Yeah, for the glory of the queen.
For the glory of the empire.
So, but
this is how we all talk now.
It was rough to see the struggles these guys went through, like, because they didn't have the medicine like we have now, things like that.
Sure,
and so they would get sick with whatever illness, they would deal with it. They couldn't fly out. They couldn't, find the nearest phone and call home or anything like that. Like, it would be things like, okay, well, wife and children, I'll be gone for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll see you
Maybe
again.
I'll return. I watched 3 movies, like I said. I'm going to start with 2. I watched 2 heist movies very recently.
Oh, yeah?
One of them had...
Which one stole the show?
American Animals.
Oh, okay, good.
Compared to the other, it was better. There are 2 movies. One is called American Animals, and then I watched Tenet.
Oh, yeah.
Christopher Nolan. It's finally available to rent, so I watched it.
Nice.
And so I'll start with American Animals. American Animals, picture a very high-budget crime recreation show.
Okay.
In which the people who are where they recreate the crime in excruciating detail, and then the people interviewed about it are the actual people in real life that did it.
Oh.
It was weird. It was great. It was a very good movie. But
did they get caught?
So
I'm
yes.
guessing?
Oh
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So this is a true story about a group of college students who attempt to rob a library at, I forget which university, but in this library, there is one of the most valuable books in existence, and it's called American Animals. And there's a couple of characters, like, college students who decide, we're going to steal that book. And it's really interesting because you have several... while you're watching this, it's cutting to the actual people in real life who committed this crime and are being interviewed about their experience, and they're essentially narrating it, but they're all unreliable. The other heist was Tenet, which is obviously the very new Christopher Nolan movie, came out a couple months ago, and it was a Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah, weird. I feel like Christopher Nolan might be going M. Night Shyamalan direction.
No, he's a better filmmaker.
Right, much better. But in the direction of people really like my movies for their kind of mind twisting.
Yes.
So now I need to lean into that.
Yes.
And now I'm doing too much.
Each movie is kind of a variation on the same concept at this point, where you're messing with time a little bit, or you're messing with just your perception of what happened.
Yeah.
Or obviously you have exceptions like the Dark Knight trilogy.
Batman, yeah.
Those are pretty straightforward, like very well told stories. Pretty straightforward though, linear. But this one was essentially
I like that linear.
Is different for him.
Is different for him, right?
Because so this is essentially what if a James Bond movie, but also there was a magical way to make objects and people go backward in time.
So something we don't talk about a lot is tabletop role playing, which we both do.
Right.
But I don't know if I brought this up before, but I'm playing a new one in Deadlands, which is a fantasy western.
Oh,
so it's all western, but there are also monsters and magic and things like that. It's cool. All magic is done with Hoyle's Book of Spells, and it's done with a deck of cards.
Oh,
so it's all like card tricks, but then you do actual magic with it.
So
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's steampunky, but also some magic in there. It's a real fun setting. But
sounds fun.
What I really want to talk about is the actual system of Savage Worlds. I'm kind of a fan of
Savage Worlds.
Savage Worlds is the system.
Okay.
And here's the way this works.
And Deadlands is the setting?
Deadlands is the setting.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So Savage Worlds is the system. Deadlands is the setting.
Gotcha.
So 4 succeeds. If you roll a 4, you succeed.
Okay.
If you're good at something, let me rephrase that. If you're proficient at something
on a D4, you're saying?
No.
Oh.
If you roll a 4, you succeed.
On any die.
If you are proficient at something, you get to roll a D4. If you're pretty good at something, you get to roll a D6.
Whoa.
And then as you get better, you can go all the way up to a D12 is the best you can get to roll for how good your skills are, or your attack, or whatever else, your strength and things like that.
Oh, I see. So if you roll a D12 and you get a 4 or above, you succeed, and you might even do better. 4 is like minimum success.
4 succeeds.
And 12 is incredibly good success.
But here's the wild thing about Savage Worlds.
Okay.
You can do something called exploding the dice. That means if you roll the maximum number on your dice, you get to roll that die again and add it to your previous roll.
What?
And if you roll the maximum, you get to keep doing that every time you roll the maximum.
So there's like no limit to the ridiculousness you can do.
There's a less chance of a success on a D4, but a greater chance of your dice exploding on a D4.
Oh.
It's fun.
Last movie I watched was Kong Skull Island.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen this one?
A long time ago.
It's on HBO Max.
Yeah.
I was so delighted by how good it was.
Really?
It's
a classic adventure film, right?
No, this is the newest one.
Oh no, I haven't seen
this newest, the Kong Skull Island that came out a couple years ago.
I have not seen this one.
It has Tom Hiddleston, Samuel L. Jackson.
This is not Jack Black then?
Oh, you're talking about King Kong, the Peter Jackson one.
That is what I'm talking about.
After Lord of the Rings, he made King Kong, and it was not great.
It was a fun adventure film to me. It was classic adventure film.
It was too long. It was overstuffed. Like
it's been
Peter
a long
Jackson
time since I've seen it.
Now that we've learned that's what he does. No, this is Kong Skull Island that came out just a couple years ago. It's in the universe of the new Godzilla movies, and it is way better than both of the new Godzilla movies because it has an actual style to it and personality. Both those Godzilla movies, the first one is mediocre. It's got some cool animal or giant kaiju fights, but that's about it. The actual story with the humans, don't care. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Except for Bryan Cranston, he is great in it. The second Godzilla movie, way more cool kaiju fights, way more interesting kaiju, but also the humans again don't really care about what they have to say or do.
They were a detriment to the film for me.
They tried to make them too integral to the story, where really those should be survival movies.
Yes.
They should just be natural disaster movies when the natural disaster is giant monsters.
Yeah.
Kong Skull Island was essentially Apocalypse Now, but with a giant monkey.
I love the smell of monkey in the morning. My last thing is I have been playing quite a bit of Among Us.
Oh, you have? Okay.
So my daughter, for school one day, she's like, Hey, so
School says we have to play Among Us.
we all got a really good grade on our last test, and so our teacher says we can play Among Us. My friends always talk about it. I don't really know what that is. I said, you know what, sweetheart? Let me download it on my phone.
Man, that's like the
here
moment
you
any
go.
gamer dad is waiting for.
Yes.
It's a school assignment to play a video game.
And so for school one day, she got to play like half an hour of Among Us.
Man.
And then she came back, she's like, oh my gosh, this happened, and oh, it was this and that and the other.
Yeah.
And she's like, can we play Among Us? And I'm like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can. It's free on mobile, and it's like $4 online. And so we downloaded it on 2 laptops, the Switch, and both mine and my wife's mobile phones. And my family of 5 has played Among Us like 3 different nights now.
Oh, that's fun.
And it is way fun.
Nice.
Like, I knew it would be way fun, but holy crap, it's way fun.
That's great.
There is no greater joy as a parent than to find something in which every single member of the family can go, be involved, we are interacting with each other, and everybody is equal.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I got.
That's all I got.
Cool. Well, then should we, what's the thing again? Get down in the
Play
nerdy
Among
gritty.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, let's play nerdy gritty. Or
Let's
do it. Do the nerdy gritty part.
Anyway, we're back, and if you're hearing this, that means that you are listening to an edited version of our podcast. And if you want to listen to not an edited version, this is the worst one of
This
these
is
I've
the worst.
ever done.
Yeah, usually it sounds like when I try it.
Yeah. If you want to listen to an unedited version of our podcast, you can head over to patreon.com/DesandFox and become one of our Patreon members. The second tier and above get access to the director's cut of the Nerdy Gritty, which usually has 20 minutes to half an hour more of content of us just chatting about what we've been up to, what movies we've been watching, what games we've been playing, things like that normally get cut, so we can keep it a little more palatable for your casual listener. We like to have around 45 minutes to an hour for somebody who just wants to listen to that.
Because podcast.
Yeah, because podcast. But if you are a fan of what we do and you want to hear more, then we ask that you please support us for what we do. So head on over to Patreon. But if that's not something you can do, if you're not able to support us on Patreon, we really appreciate it when you just share our podcast. We don't pay for advertising because we can't, because we po. So we would really like it if you would just tell a friend. Word of mouth is huge to us. Let them know what your favorite episode is. Let them know what your favorite discussion we've had is. Some good points that we had, some terrible points that we had, whatever it is.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, go tell a friend about our podcast. Either way, thank you so much for listening. Let's get down to the nerdy gritty.
You and I are pretty big comic book fans.
We are.
Yeah. And
We are comic book fans, and we are overweight.
there you go. I was just waiting for you to make that joke. And we are also fans of at least the television show that came out a couple of years ago of The Punisher.
Yeah.
Is a very good depiction of the Punisher character from Marvel Comics.
Absolutely.
In recent years, and I'll say that this came up in the recent insurrection attempt on the Capitol, but it is not new.
No.
It also came up during the protests that took place last year in 2020, that there have been an increasing number of people, including law enforcement, using the Punisher symbol as like a decal on their vehicles or on their clothing, sometimes literally attached to an American flag.
Yep.
And because of that, and because of just the Punisher's kind of whole tone and ideal, their ideology, there are some people who are wondering, including us, if at all Marvel should continue using this character, at least for the foreseeable future, in really any capacity, comic books or their film or TV aspects. And so go ahead.
The article I'm looking at here is one from InsideTheMagic.net, but there are many articles on this because there are a lot of people within the comic book and comic book film industry that are calling on Marvel to just get rid of Punisher altogether.
To retire the character.
Yeah, to retire the character altogether. So we want to have the conversation, what should Marvel do with the Punisher?
Yeah.
Because there is something about him in general, I guess, that makes... I'm trying to think of like a polite, kinder way to say this, but makes people want to justify their violence?
It is, yes. It is, his symbol is used as a... Yeah, justification. Yeah, it's a hard way to put it because I can't speak for what people are using it for.
Right.
If it's just a cool symbol and maybe they don't even know what it's just a cool skull, and probably not the case for most people, but
It's weird because when you think of things like the police officers who used it,
I have seen Punisher decals on official police vehicles,
right,
on pictures on the internet, not around us.
and then at that point, it's weird because specifically the Punisher is somebody who wants to work outside of the law.
His whole thing is he is a violent vigilante.
Right, and that is his thing.
That is his thing.
He is not a
he
police officer.
Never
He
at
could
one
not be
point
that.
follows the law after his inciting incident of his family being killed.
Right.
He is a police officer at the beginning and then goes through a change and becomes a vigilante.
But here's what I will say, what I can understand from the people who use it is the Punisher is a sign of violence. He is a character that
unrepentantly violent.
Yes, a character that unrepentant is a great word. A character that represents unrepentant violence in a lot of ways. And I guess if your goal is to communicate, I will fight you.
Sure.
I will do a violence to you.
I will also say that my if I'm trying to find a justification, it is he is also somebody that pursues justice. A non-legal system justice, his own personal code, but he is somebody that through whatever means necessary will hold people accountable for the crimes they commit. And at the very surface level, that could be like police officers could be using that, or protesters, or whoever is using the symbol could say, well, when the law fails, doesn't mean justice can't be done. And so it's a really complicated issue because we can't really speak for what people's justification is or why they're using this symbol. Maybe they're just comic book fans, and they're just like, well, I like the character. Real quick though, because we want to talk about maybe what the future could look like for the character. Let's look at what he is right now.
Okay.
In the comics and stuff. Obviously,
I don't know. So.
Very popular show.
Yes.
That was part of the MCU tangentially through the Netflix shows, which were technically part, but not actually, like, they were kind of a side
They
project.
were canonically part, but
canonically
not
part, but not actually part of any story in the overarching arc.
Yeah.
And so, really great show. Really great depiction of character.
Good.
Lots of great acting. Great show. In the comic books, he's far less prevalent right now. He hasn't actually had, like, an ongoing series in several years. And in fact, the most recent, like, Punisher-specific story I can find was from the War of the Realms, which took place in 2018. 2019 maybe?
2019, I think.
Which was he had his own, let's see. He had a tie-in series as part of a big overarching thing. And then after that, he had like a series that was a spin-off called Kill Crew, which was him finding like ice giants and goblins and stuff that were left over from the war to kill.
Nice.
And to get vengeance for somebody that got killed by them.
Yeah.
As he does. That's kind of his thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's also right now part of the Savage Avengers, which can tell you something.
Savavengers?
There are there's the Avengers.
Savengers.
There are the Avengers, and then there are the Savage Avengers.
The Savengers.
Which, sure, if you want to call it that, sure. Which are a little more edgy in how, a little more violent. I mean, Venom's part of it sometimes. Wolverine's part of it sometimes.
That's some comic books do sometimes.
That's what they do.
Here's
the dark
and then
person.
Young Justice came out because they were
yeah.
more edgy, whatever. Yeah.
So you have things like that, but he has not had a standard, like, ongoing series in a good long while. And I think I would not be surprised if that was intentional because he's not really something that he hasn't, I don't know. There's probably a big discussion at Marvel at the same time right now going on. Let's just never use him, or let's just like put him to the side because of all this.
Don't officially retire him. Just kind of like
just never. Yeah, we're not going to come out with an announcement saying Punisher is dead and never will come back as a character. They're probably just not going to use him. That's my theory. But so that's all to say. That's where the Punisher is right now. He occasionally shows up in one series and has not had an actual specific story in a good long while. And so where did they go from here as far as, like, what are the pitfalls? What could they use him in a good way? Is there something that could be like actually a really great story to use the Punisher in right now? That's what we want to discuss. So Do you have any theories? Do you have any where could they go from here?
Well, what I do want to say first is that the idea of just kind of letting it go, I would say, is not the right choice.
Sure.
Because at that point, his symbol's going to be usurped.
Yeah.
It
It already has been.
Right. Well, 100% successfully usurped is my point.
That's fair. That's fair.
Where if they just say, whatever, you know what, we're just going to not worry about it.
We'll just push them under the sweep them under the rug.
Well, then that skull symbol is going to mean something entirely new.
It now takes on a new meaning.
Yeah, it's like the swastika almost.
People
where
are going to not
be...
know there's a Punisher. They're going to think that's a symbol of rioting or
exactly. Of violent law.
Yes,
violent
vigilante
enforcement.
justice.
Vigilante justice. There you go. And so it'd be like swastika, where it was a symbol of peace, and then the Nazis usurped it.
Right.
And so it was one of those things where you gotta do something about it, because you own this right now.
There has to be something said. Yes.
Right, has to be something said. So there are a lot of options, and I do think that possibly one of the easiest ones is kill him. But kill him for real.
Not straight up murder.
Not
Frank
comic
Castle.
book. Not comic book kill him. Like, actually have him do something, and you could have him do something heroic to, to stand up against the type of things that it's been using for, or whatever else. But make him die heroically. Make him die as a good man in some way, shape, or form. But make him die. And actually officially end it.
Retire and then announce this is the end of this character.
Yeah.
He's dying for realsies, guys.
Or
Trust us.
Maybe even something to the nature of make him go full villain. Make the Avengers, make him kill some high profile person, and then have everybody find out that he was falsely accused or it wasn't real. And the Avengers have to go after Punisher, and Punisher goes off the deep end. And he dies in the process, but it just goes to show that what he was doing was actually not okay, was actually not good.
Okay, I'm glad I have a computer in front of me, because I have to correct myself. He actually had a pretty recent ongoing series.
Oh.
I remember that this thing happened in a comic book at one point, and I Googled, okay, when did this happen? It was Punisher number 13 of July 10th, 2019. So I think this is leading up to War of the Realms. Because War of the Realms, I believe, took place in like August of that year.
Mm-hmm.
August/September. So yeah, a couple of years ago, but since then there has not been. But there is a confrontation. This is a really big thing. A confrontation between him and cops, of course, that take place on a regular basis. And let's see. The cops in this issue have his skull decal on their car.
Yeah, I remember this.
And he actively, Castle gives the officers, this is a Newsweek article describing what happens. Castle gives the officers a beatdown, physically attacks the officers, and explains why they shouldn't worship him. And he says, "I will only say this once. We're not the same. You took an oath to uphold the law. You help people. I gave that up a long time ago. You don't do what I do. Nobody does. You boys need a role model? His name is Captain America, and he'd be happy to have you."
Yep.
And that is like a really great description of, there are almost all superheroes are vigilantes. Like, they are not employees of the government.
Right.
Like, that was what Civil War was about.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, Captain America was right. Like, in the comic books, he was like basically made to be the hero of that story. And I love that he himself says, "Nah, guys, stop it. Like, I'm gonna do what I do, but you can't do that." So I love that it also brings up Captain America, because Captain America to me is the good version, the lawful version.
It's two sides of the same coin, almost.
Almost, yeah.
Like, we both stand for justice and
right.
goodness, and
it's like the Batman and Superman, where they have
absolutely
almost the same intention, or same intention with different methodology.
Yeah.
So I think that, I'm sorry, I honestly was looking this up, and I think I just kind of derailed us a little bit there.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Because in the process, it occurred to me a couple of cool stories of, if they're going to fully retire this character, I have what I want them to do, and I'm going to save that for last, the actual story I want them.
Sure.
But a cool story that I think what would happen is somebody comes across the Facebook page, Innocent Lives Taken by the Punisher. And it's a support, social media page that is these stray bullets from this fight or this explosion or whatever else. And there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people.
A support group
group that is the Punisher's actions killed my family member
Yeah.
who just a bystander, nothing to do with this, and really put into light the idea of senseless violence and how it hurts
Yeah.
people around and the damage it does to communities and whatnot. And maybe even have him come to a point at the end of the series where he decides to retire.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really cool story.
That would make sense to me. Like, I don't think he should ever be, and I don't think he ever has been, but it should be very much the intention of the writers to portray him as the bad guy. As a, not even like a Wolverine type anti-hero, but like, you do not want him to succeed. Most of you understand maybe his motivations. You understand he's been wronged and he's getting revenge or whatever, but also, like, I want him to almost be blinded by his rage, like to just like not care about the innocent bystanders to a certain point where he's like, you know, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, you know, something like that, where it's like, you got to do, you know, and so I don't think going forward, if they were to continue using him, he should be portrayed as even the TV show level of the wronged vigilante, but just like somebody who everybody's trying to take down. And he should be, to me, the villain of another show. like where he kind of was in Daredevil,
right?
Where he is a villain and like they should be trying to take him down, and then you capture him and realize, okay, I understand you're still going to jail forever.
I mean, there was about 10 years ago that there was the trial of Frank Castle series, and you know, he was arrested and tried, but of course, comics, everything returns to the status quo eventually, because you have to maintain a series over the course of years. But something more permanent, to the nature of just saying this is not okay. You know, the whole idea of the Punisher has taken human lives, no matter what these people are doing, and boiled them down to bad guy. And I think that is the biggest problem with Punisher in general, where this guy is bad and therefore should die. And that is
an extremism type of black and white. You've done a bad thing. You deserve death now.
I remember a Batman comic where there's a heist going on, and Batman goes in and, you know, heist at a bank. Batman goes in and punches everybody and handcuffs everybody. And then there's one dude left, and Batman grabs the dude, pulls his mask off, looks at him and says, "Come on, Mark, you're better than this," and sets him down and walks away. And the rest of the comic is this guy going in and, or getting arrested, but being in jail and thinking to himself, I had a family and kids, and this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, and why did I do that? And at the end of it, he just gets a job and becomes a better man.
Spoilers.
Yeah. But it's so cool. Like, it's this storyline of
there's some nuance.
Yeah.
Is what it sounds like.
Of saying not every bad guy is bad and should be punched and thrown in jail. Sometimes people just need to be encouraged a little more.
Right.
And
it's kind of it's a big story, and has been for a year now, of the brutality of those who are supposed to be protecting people.
Right.
And how they're using it as an excuse. Like, we're here to help you or here to protect, and you're actively doing harm to people and killing people. And it feels like there's, at the same time as, oh no, the Punisher is kind of, maybe not use him. At the same time, it kind of feels like this is the time to portray what's going on through this character of the Punisher. Because there are stories that I think can display that dichotomy really well, of the relationship between violence and justice, and how things can go wrong. I want the Punisher to say, I've done wrong. like to turn himself in, like just things like that. I want him to have I'm sure this has happened. Comic books have existed for a long time, where he should have a conversation with Captain America, where they have like a long dialogue about how what their justification is for what they do. They both violently attack people they consider to be evil or doing the wrong thing. So just because he wears an American flag he's seen as the good guy.
Right.
Oh, commentary, huh? Oh, ooh. Like, there's such a great opportunity right now, but it'd be pretty risky. It'd have to be you're not going to do something like that in the MCU. That's going to be something that maybe happens in comics.
Because the danger with that is Marvel, DC, like the mainstream comics, live in a universe in which there must be violence
Yes.
to proceed.
It's a real problem.
And
it's uninteresting most of the time.
That's part of the fiction now, though. So you can't have a mainstream comic about a lawyer who does a good lawyering job.
You could. It would not sell very well.
No,
it would go against.
You could have it. People could write it.
It would
but
be
it's not
lauded by
sell.
critics and not sell, and it wouldn't happen again because of it.
Right. And so that's not going to work. That's not going to happen.
Right.
The interesting part is that what gets people talking is who would win in a fight.
Yeah.
Or what's going to go on in this fight.
What giant magical thing came into, who's the big bad guy this time?
Right. So I think there has to be to have some sort of admittance of, okay, there still needs to be punching in some way, shape, or form, but it's the killing. It's the violent murdering of human beings that we probably need to pull back on a little bit here and work out maybe something to the nature of like a big time. Let's go with Jigsaw. That's the villain, Punisher villain. I know a storyline where he honestly reforms. He honestly becomes a good person and is honestly trying to be better. And there are times, Two-Face had a story like this that was really good in Batman where he gets surgery and
you're talking about the Dark Knight Returns.
The Dark Knight Returns movie?
No, the comic book.
The comic book? No.
It might happen multiple times. In the Dark Knight Returns, though, he gets surgery and reforms.
Face to Face is the comic book series that I'm talking about. And he gets surgery, becomes Harvey Dent again, and is trying to become a good man, an honestly good person.
Sure.
And Batman is there with him, but also keeping an eye on him. But Batman is like really hard on him.
Never quite trusting.
Never quite trusting. And the voice starts like the Two-Face voice starts peeking back in Harvey's head. And a lot of it is Batman drives him back to becoming Two-Face again just because of the lack of trust.
There's this assumption that once bad, always bad.
And having something like that where now Punisher is the villain in this, and because of his mistrust that somebody can reform, bad things are happening. And again, coming to a point, the whole goal here would be in all of our stories where Frank Castle himself says, I should stop. I should probably not do this anymore because I'm hurting people. I'm hurting good people. Sometimes I'm hurting bad people, but I could hurt people that want to reform or whatever else. Or let me phrase hurt. Killing. I'm killing people who want to reform.
Sure.
Yeah. So
let me give you if they're going to use him again and then maybe retire him, give him a story that he goes out on, because Punisher has at this point, he kind of feels like the least evolved form of comics from like the 50s.
Right.
Where they were just like
very much
crime thriller or fantasy worlds or things like where they're just general ideas, and then you have characters that come out of those, like Superman was action comics and Batman was detective comics and things they've endured, and Punisher feels like a vigilante comic, and it just never it feels like it hasn't matured like others have.
And the irony of it is Punisher really came out, it was about in the 70s, and it was an answer to the lack of justice from the police.
Yes.
The fact that the police were overlooking it.
It's ironic. Yes, that
really
now
ironic.
The police are using that.
And
so here's my what I would love to happen, which won't happen, as a way to retire the character. Alternate history, actually about the insurrection that took place at the Capitol.
Oh, that would be really
I want him to be there because it's heightened tension and to basically be on patrol, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And then everything to go down, he goes in, stops some people, does what he needs to do, and then at the end of the comic, they say, we're doing what you do. We're taking down those who are corrupt, those who don't speak the truth.
Ooh.
And he realizes that he is, like you said, inspiring more than he is helping.
Yeah.
He's inspiring those who are misappropriating or just genuinely not understanding what his purpose is. And he says, this is too far, I'm done. He turns himself in as a symbol kind of thing. It's the symbol of Captain America turning himself in at the end of Civil War, saying, I've been hurting more than I've been helping.
Mm-hmm.
And this time it's the Punisher instead. And then Captain America visits him and says, "You did the right thing."
That would be really cool.
Yeah,
I would like that.
Like, I think there could be a lot of symbolism, as well as I would love if Marvel just said, "This is a real thing that happened. We're going to talk about it." I think it would be bold and good.
Marvel does a decent job of that. They'll do
Yes.
that, but usually they'll do it in their own fiction.
Sure,
And so
an
Marvel,
analog of some kind.
So I could see Marvel doing an analog of that, and I think that'd be really cool.
Right. It helps that their stories are set in actual American cities, mostly
Right.
New York, whereas when DC does analogs, it's always in Metropolis, and there's
Gotham,
a level of
Star
disconnect.
City,
It can still
yeah.
happen. You can still tell a very effective story, but there's a level of disconnect of at the Capitol steps of Metropolis, and it feels like it's a Superman comic now rather than a story about life.
All right, so here's my pitch.
Yes.
My final pitch for the story that I think would be great.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
And it'd be a little bit of a finger in the nose to everybody using
A finger in the nose?
a finger, or on the nose, like a
Oh,
thumb in the
okay.
nose. Sorry.
Mocking people who
Yeah,
have
yeah.
misappropriated the Punisher.
Yeah, I'm doing the gesture where you put the thumb on your nose and wiggle your fingers.
Gotcha.
Like that.
Sure.
So Frank Castle dies, something happens, but it's a very generic, simple thing, and he is gone. Then, sometime later, a guy who is a high, level businessman who has been traveling to a secret pedophilia ring or whatever else,
Okay.
finds out that all of his transactions for that, all of the information, all the proof that he has been doing this has been leaked to the public, and boom, the Punisher symbol just jumps up on his screen. And now the Punisher is somebody who lets the truth and punishes people for their actions with the truth. Lets the justice system take care of it.
Through an action, yeah.
Let's whomever take care of it. And it comes out that it's very much like, I would want it to be somebody very much like Oracle. It's a woman in a wheelchair who was hurt too many times, or something happened to her family.
Sure.
Same story, where her family or she was hurt by the violence that's been overlooked, by the justice that is being hidden right now, or the lack of justice that's being hidden right now. But instead of her going out and shooting some folk, she is getting the facts, revealing it to the world,
Finding proof.
and now the Punisher becomes a side character. She doesn't get her own monthly, but she is the tech person now. She's the person that they go to for information so that people who need to be punished can be punished, but properly. I think that would be super cool to take the symbol and change it to something else. The Punisher is no longer about shooting people who are bad. It's about revealing the truth about people who need to be punished.
Yeah, that would be super interesting, and I'm kind of going bigger here, of a reckoning on the commonality of violence in Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
They, as far as I know, there is not mainstream comic book character in the Marvel universe, your big guys, who have a policy of no murder, of no death. They never really portray it as we're killing everybody, but Batman is actively non-murderous.
Right.
He will straight up destroy people.
It's the very edge of death.
Somebody was robbing a bank and he put them in the hospital forever, and now their medical bills are going to kill them. But
yeah,
they should talk about that and that also. But like, there would be a cool, like, a reckoning of, like, Captain America calls the major people together, including Punisher, and says, we have to change. And like, and then that would be like, Punisher would be against it, whatever. I think there's a lot you can do here, and I think that would be really cool.
Well, I think it would open up, again, she's the tech person who reveals the secrets. I think it would be really, really cool to have, storylines where all of a sudden it's an Iron Man comic, and at the end of it, you just see the Punisher symbol come up on Tony Stark's screen.
Oh, snap.
And he is hiding something, and he just got figured out.
Oh, snap.
And now you have to go into that. Now it's devil in the bottle type of thing, but now instead of devil in the bottle, now
your
it's
past is coming back to haunt you, or the thing you're actively doing right now.
Whatever it is that he has been part of. Maybe he's gone back to selling tech to other countries or whatever else.
Sure.
Whatever bad thing he's been up to is now
that'd be interesting.
released. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, there's a lot you could do there.
Yeah, and I think that would be an incredibly interesting character.
First person he takes down is the Kingpin,
Yeah.
Wilson Fisk, who is currently in the Marvel Universe the mayor of New York City.
Exactly.
But still pretty evil. Yeah, there's a lot there. And then if Frank Castle dies at all this, just coming up spitballing here, in a Deadpool comic, you see him building a cool model of a castle out of hot dogs, and it's his Frank
Castle.
And it ends on a joke.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Let us know what you think Marvel should do with the Punisher. Let us know what you think about our ideas and our storylines. We want to say we appreciate you all so much for your support and for your listening. We also want to say we appreciate Granger for the use of our theme song, All My Friends Have Wi-Fi, and so do some of my neighbors, off of the album Dear Sam. Go check out their music. Granger is a very good band.
Yeah, and go check out our YouTube channel. We have been doing some animal chaos lately.
Yeah.
We've chaotically attacked a small village in England as geese, and now we've been murdering so many people as a giant shark.
Just as much hatred in the heart, but a little bit. Really, it's the difference between Captain America and Punisher.
I call him the Punish Shark.
The Punish Shark.
I mean, I'm covered in bones. Just like he has a skull.
You have a skull face.
We're playing Maneater, and it is a horrifically one-note game. But for that note, it is fun to play. It's pretty fun. Kill a lot of people and other animals. And I don't support doing that in real life, but in a shark PG, it's a good time. Yeah. So go check that out.
Thanks again for listening, guys, and always remember that saved games save lives.
See you next week.
My voice sings